If you're still vibe coding the old way, like I did until a week before, prompting each feature one by one, you're doing it wrong. In this video, I'm going to show you what spec-driven development exactly is and how it's different from vibe coding. First, you start with a PRD, and a PRD is something that you can generate on any AI tool, and then you can start to break down and prompt each screen that builds up your product on a tool like Lovable or Claude or whichever you're comfortable with. And then once you have a screen, you start to build each functionality. The functionality may be interdependent. Each functionality may relate to more than one screen, as I've shown here. So you start prompting each functionality, and at times you may have to test it on multiple screens and see if the functionality is working fine. And then gradually you prompt your whole application. Now, on a high level, how you do is you prompt, you test, you repeat, and you keep doing this over and over, and you keep testing parts of your application until it works. But this approach comes with problems. Some of the common ones being the code is very brittle. So you make a change over here, it might affect another functionality elsewhere, or the other functionality may depend on this functionality in some way. And if you change here, you may not know where else this changes, so something might break. Or it might create an inconsistent architecture. This could not be your fault, but what the code that AI generates could be completely different in different parts of your app. Now, in comparison, let's take a look at what spec-driven development actually is. So the key idea of a spec-driven development is that you have a living documentation. A living documentation is something that constantly gets updated, not by you, but AI, agents. The living documentation contains three main documents. One is a mission document in terms of what mission do you have with your product that you're trying to build. The second one is a feature roadmap. This is a complete exhaustive list of all the features you need to build to complete your application. And finally, the tech stack, which is, are you building a Mac app or are you building a web app? And what kind of technology you use? Are you using React, Vue, and that sort of stuff? The feature roadmap itself contains several features, could have up to say 50 features, right? And each feature now is broken into a spec and certain tasks. And this is done by an AI agent. So every feature will now have a spec and a task, and you have another AI agent that goes and implements each of these features one by one, or you can even set it all up and let AI finish the whole thing, which could take maybe half an hour or even an hour, and then you get done. But often you will have to check in at different times to make sure what it built is what you're actually looking at. So the common way from what I've observed is to go build feature by feature and just tell your AI agent to go build this feature, and it builds it, then go check if it works, and then ask it to do the next one. So as it keeps going through feature by feature, it updates the feature roadmap. Think of it like a little checklist. So it updates the roadmap, it updates the tasks that it completes, and step by step, you complete building your entire application. Now, the most of the effort just goes into this initial setup. The rest of it is actually done by AI agents. What are the advantages of this approach? The advantage is you have one central documentation, which is your living document. And it's accessible to all. So if you're working as a team, everyone has an understanding of how you've gone from start to finish. The other advantage is that you are working with a team of AI agents that does all this for you. And this feels truly agentic because it's a crazy workflow where an agent is specialized for a specific task. We are going to talk about what are the agents that we are going to use, but one agent does a task and passes the task to another agent, which completes the task that it is specialized for, and then completes the tasks, passes it back, and all that context sharing between one agent to the other agent all happens behind the scenes. And it's crazy when you see it in action, and we're going to take a look at it soon. It has lesser errors because there are agents that make sure there are no errors. There are agents that test the code that you've written. There are agents that make sure the code quality is maintained across, and all that architectural consistency is taken care of by agents. And now finally, this is called the professional standard for vibe coding because of how much advantage you get from this kind of a setup. Let's look at the team of AI agents you have available now with this new approach of development, and then we look at a more hands-on example of how this is in practice. In the current setup that we're going to use, we have about 8 agents, and these agents are all free and open source for you. Someone had made it on GitHub, and I'm going to show you how to install it and do it yourself. There's an agent for planning. There's an agent for doing all kinds of things with your specs, like initializing a spec, shaping a spec, verifying it, and also writing one. And then an agent for creating and implementing tasks, and finally verifying the implementation. As a team, these agents work really well, and it almost feels like magic when you set it all up with the initial request and then wait till it completes, and what it creates finally usually works. Now let's jump right into it, and I'll show you how it works in practice. The library we are going to use is called Agent OS. Agent OS is basically a setup that gives you all these agents that we spoke about, and it's a boilerplate code. It's like code that you can use that comes out of the box, which gives you all of these agents upfront, and you can just trigger any of them and specify what that agent needs to do. And they know how to talk to each other, so it goes and talks to each other and fulfills a task depending on what you ask. Agent OS is open source. There are several contributors, but this person, who is Brian Casel, is the one who created this. He also has a YouTube channel. You should go check him out. He speaks a lot on vibe coding. But this is the library that we're going to use, and it works well with Claude Code. If you scroll down and click on this installation, you can see their entire documentation. If you go into Docs and Setup, you'll find how to install it. So I would go into Installation over here, and then you can see the base installation. Just copy this and run it in your terminal. So you would go into terminal like this, and then just paste it, and then hit enter, and it will install this Agent OS in your system. Now, where it installs this is not in your project. It installs this in your root folder. If you see here, you can see the file path at which it creates. So usually this tilde and slash refers to the home directory, and that's where you have your documents, desktop, downloads, and all of that stuff. The first step you need to do is to create a profile. Think of profiles like agents setting for a specific kind of application you're trying to build. For example, you might have a profile for a web application. You might have a profile for an iOS app. In my case, I had to create a profile for a Mac OS application. And why do we need this profile? It's because you have certain configuration that is very specific to this profile in terms of what tech stack to use. For my Mac OS app, which is what we're going to build today, I use a program called Electron, which is basically a library that helps you build Mac OS apps with simple HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. You can also use React or any of the other front-end frameworks, but this is a choice that you can make that makes development so much easier and faster. So the profile that I make for building with macOS, I use Electron as a choice, and I also specify that I want to use React and Tailwind CSS and all that stuff. Now, Agent OS already comes with all of these decisions made for you. It comes with a default one. So you customize it for a specific kind of application you're building. But as long as you tell Claude that this is the application that you want to build and create a profile for that application, Claude will create that profile for you. First, I go into the Agent OS folder and I just start my Claude code. Now, with my Claude code running, now I can start creating my profile. So what I want to do first is I want to understand how this Agent OS works. I just told you about it, but then what I'm doing here is for it to be in the context. So when I ask things, it does it for me. Now, this is going to take some time to run, and I'm just going to give it permissions, and let's look at what happens after it's complete. Now, as you can see, it created this file called techstack.md, which is basically modifying the tech stack that came in this Agent OS as a template file it changed that file and replaced with everything that's needed for building a Mac OS application. Certain front end, there's a main process and database, and it's made some choices in terms of, for example, what database to use, what framework to use. As of now, I'm just going to go and say yes to everything that it creates. Finally, it created the Electron Mac profile. As you can read, your Electron profile has been created and tested. Now, you can read here below on how to use this in your projects. Now, when you go into your project, which we're going to do that shortly, you're going to say install my Agent OS inside that project with the profile Electron Mac. Until now, we installed Agent OS in your system, and now we are installing Agent OS in a specific project with a profile configuration with it. So I'm saying now inside my project, I want to install Agent OS with the profile flag of Electron Mac. Now I'm inside the folder called Prompt Builder, and this is the project that I'm going to build. If you see down, you can right click here at the path. If you don't have the path enabled, you can find it in the view options on your nav bar, and I just say open in terminal. And once I've opened in terminal, I can start my Claude code by using the Claude command. Now, first thing I want to do is to install my Electron application. I can see that it has an create Electron app is how I would do it. So if I scroll down here, you can see that there's a command npx create Electron app with the latest version. I'm just going to type that, and instead of my app, I'm just going to call it Prompt Builder using small letters. Now it will go create the Electron app, and it goes and runs the command for you. Just a note here, you don't have to do this on Claude Code. You can do it directly on the terminal, but Claude Code also does the same for you. So from here onwards, I'm just going to be using Claude, so might as well just use it on Claude Code. Now it's going to go install all the dependencies and just get the basic Electron app running. Now a basic Electron app is successfully built. Now I need to install Agent OS inside my new Electron project. So I'm going to use that command that we found here, which is this one, the Agent OS scripts, and I'm just going to go paste this inside my project folder. You just need to run that command, and now it will go create this OS installation inside my project. And let me open this in my code editor. And now I used a command called code, which you can typically set up when you install an application like VS Code. This command is available for you. I connected it to Cursor, so it opens for me in Cursor. But if you don't know how to do, just go to ChatGPT and say, how can I configure my code editor to open when I type code in the terminal, and you'll get it. Or you can open your Visual Studio Code, and within Visual Studio Code, you can just go into your application folder and just open that on VS Code. If you see, you have this .claude folder with all these different agents that we just installed from the Agent OS tool that we just installed. And you can see the prompt here for something like a product planner agent. You have some core responsibilities, the entire workflow. This doesn't have to make sense for you right now because it all comes in this open source tool. So it's going to do what it's meant to do. Now here's the spec writer's agent prompt, and you can see all the other Agent OS files that came out of the box for you when you installed your command inside this project. There's nothing much to be done here. Now let's go back into our terminal and open Claude again inside our project folder. First thing you need to do is this part, which is to create a mission, feature roadmap, and tech stack document. You can do that by using this command called plan product, and what that will do is go and run this Agent OS plan product command, and from here Claude Code will take care of planning your product for you. Product planning is done, and it now created 3 files, which is the product mission file, the product roadmap file, and the product tech stack file, the one we spoke about in Figma. Now the next step would be to create a feature spec and tasks for an item in the product roadmap. You can see the commands right here inside Claude Code on what needs to be done next. I just noticed that these files are actually not created, although Claude Code said it made them. So I'm just going to say Claude Code that I don't see it. And Claude Code rectifies itself and says now the documents were created, so I'm going to gather your information first and then create the files. The blue thing that you see here where it says Product Planner is actually another agent that is doing this part for us. So if I go back to my Figma, you can see the product planning agent, which is the one over here, is the one doing this task for us. And now it created a mission statement for me, which is obviously a generic one because we haven't yet told it what is the application that we're going to build. It picked up the key idea from the name prompt builder, but it assumed what the application would be. But we are going to go customize it for what exactly we're trying to build. I'm going to tell Claude that ask questions as specified in the agent OS first, then create the document for me, because it created a very generic one. But what I understood was agent OS already has all of these instructions in the prompt. How did I know? I read through the prompt. You can do it too, but you could just know it right now. And for the first time, you will be able to answer these questions. You can see that it asks certain questions. What is the main purpose of my prompt builder? What problem does it solve? How do you envision interacting with it? It has all these information that I need to fill, after which it will create these three files that I spoke about: the mission, the feature roadmap, and tech stack. I'm going to go quickly fill all of this from the product requirement document I created earlier to build my prototype. If you haven't watched this video, I will put a link to this over here. And I have pretty much all of this information. So I'm going to speed this up a bit. I'll copy the problem statement and I'll answer each question step by step. If you still didn't know what is the application that I'm building, this is how the prototype looks like. I'm just going to download that prototype as well and put it into my project folder in a folder called prototype, and this helps as a reference. And I can also mention the prototype inside my responses as use this for reference. So finally, Claude has all the information it needs to create a product requirement document. While it creates, let me go and show you what that prototype actually looks like interactively. In the last video, I go over exactly how I build this prototype. So if you're interested, you can watch that. But basically, it's a prompt builder, which is a library of different contexts that I can store, and I can select multiple different context blocks and I can just add them into a prompt, and then the prompt is available on the right. So I can simply just run the prompt, which is a combination of different contexts together, and this would run the prompt in this window on the right. And what I'm building now is a Mac application, but the same interface. Going back to my Claude code, now it's still building the comprehensive product documentation for the prompt builder based on all the responses I just gave. Now the product planner again has taken over from the main agent, and now it created a mission document. And now this looks more like what I had already written in my product requirements document. I'm just going to accept all its suggestions. Everything looks great. Here's an entire checklist, a roadmap of all the things it needs to build for my application. For now, I'm just going to agree to whatever it creates, and I can always modify it later. So finally, I have a mission, roadmap, and a tech stack, and it's inside the Agent OS folder in my project. And now the next step is to start shaping a spec. If I run the spec shaper, it's going to do the latest one on the roadmap, which is to create the basic context library UI and the existing prototype. And now it asks me questions on what exactly do I want to do with the UI. Same process. Now I go and answer everything that I had in mind related to my project. Okay, so now I've answered everything. So it has now all the information it needs to craft the requirements document based on what I just provided. Okay, so now I can see this new folder, and I can see a new requirements.md file with all the different conversation that we had and different other information that it needs. Honestly, I don't need to go through all of them right now. And let's start writing the spec now. I'm doing this using the command, and it's, as you can see, it's passing into the spec writer agent, which is going to do this for us. Now the spec is ready. So going back into Figma, what we did was we took the roadmap and we created the spec using the spec writer, and now we need to start creating tasks for that spec writer. So that's exactly what we're doing. So it says next step is to start creating tasks. If you're following along, you can actually just follow Claude because it tells you what's the next step to do. Now I say create tasks, and let's just go and look at the spec that it created. This looks pretty comprehensive. It has all the information on the visual design and functionality, and the task list creator agent is now creating all the tasks for us to implement this functionality. Okay, so the tasks are created, and if you look at the tasks file, you can see there are so many tasks, actually not that many. Each one has about 5 or 6, and yeah, so again, I don't really think so much about what these tasks are. You could go read them through if you want, but then now let's go and implement the tasks. So it's asking if you should do all or one. I'm just going to say all, and it's going to go do all of these tasks. Now I can just go grab a drink and let it do its own thing, and the implementer is going to go do all of this, and I trust it's going to work out fine. It's done, and it says everything is working. Let's go and give this a try. Often it breaks. I'm pretty sure it's going to break. In the terminal inside my code, let me see what's the code to run it. So if you go into package.json, here you can see the command to run the application. So the command is npm start. So I'm just going to start the application, and I see a complete blank screen as expected. Now what I do is I'm just going to copy the error and paste it back into Claude, and I say, just don't say anything in the UI when I say do npm start. And I just wait for it to figure out what the issue is. Hopefully it should work out. I know this is disappointing the first time, just want to see it work, but it does work. After a few iterations of copy pasting the error back into Claude code, now it's finally made something, and I'm confident this time it will work. And if I go back and say npm run start, now you can see the entire Mac application. And I have all the different folders. The search works fine. I can select different context blocks. I can search for something specific. And so far it looks great. It looks pretty snappy. Now this is only the first feature, but the steps I did are exactly the same. Now I have to create a spec for the second feature. The roadmap already has all the list of features I need to get to this application, and then step by step you build it. The good part of this is that I'm not going and implementing each feature one by one, or I'm not writing so many different prompts. I'm just saying go do the next thing and next thing, and it already has context of what the next thing is, and I can be fairly confident that it's going to give good code at the end. I hope this was easy to follow along. I will make a recording of me building the rest of the application as well. So stay tuned and subscribe to this channel if you're interested in what happens next. I'll see you in the next video.